Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Power Podcast. I am so excited. I feel like I say that all the time when we have guests on. And it is. So I have Coach Jen here, and we have a very special guest, Miss Sam. She is one of our clients.
Hello.
And I'm really excited to learn more about you and just your story. What brought you to Power, what your experience has been like, and just how you've changed. So really excited to get into this. First,
thank you for having me.
Of course. So we were talking before, and Sam shared with us that she used to work at a radio station when she was in college.
I did. So I went to Siena for my junior and senior year of college. And I worked for a radio station, 88.3 The Saint.
Yes.
We play anything. No, but that was like a super fun time, and it was really cool. It was one of, I think, only 25 college radio stations on iHeartRadio.
Oh, really?
So
awesome.
yeah, it was really cool. It was a
that.
fun time.
Well,
You got a great voice for radio, too.
Oh, thank you.
yes, you really do. What was your favorite part about that whole experience?
I mean, I probably shouldn't say everything, but I mean, I feel like it was just a really cool environment where, you know, we got a lot of freedom to try things with our own shows and things like that, and really kind of push us out of our comfort zones. And it was fun being able to produce and run your whole show. And play whatever music you want. I know on my 22nd birthday, I was able to play 22 by Taylor Swift.
Of course, have
So
to.
highlight. But yeah, it was a really fun time. Definitely learned a lot and grew a lot.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I didn't ask before was that part, what was your major in college at Siena? And was this directly related? I mean,
So I was a finance major.
my girl.
Yeah. But no, so growing up, you know, I had been a big theater nerd, and I'd done the morning announcements at my high school and things like that. So when that opportunity to intern at the radio station came up, I was like, this could be really fun. So it was just kind of something where I was like, you know what? I have 2 credits, left to fill in my schedule. I might as well do it.
Yeah. And with that theater background, which speaks directly to
Yes.
Jen.
No, and it's definitely been such a great, obviously great talking point today, and then in interviews, for work and stuff like that. It's been super great, and it's just a fun fact to have.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. I was gonna ask what's one fun fact to know that we should know about you, and then you mentioned that when we were talking, and I was like, oh, this is it. So
Yeah.
I was like, I want you to talk about that more.
Perfect.
And also, I recently learned just from our conversations that you have a new affinity for pinball.
Yes.
Talk to me about that.
Oh my gosh. So back in February, I had a friend, and she's one of those people who knows everything that's going on all over the place. And so she had just mentioned, oh, it looks like there's going to be a pinball league. And I was like, that sounds really cool. So it's up at Excelsior Pub. It's the Albany Bells and Chimes Women Pinball League. And so I started doing that.
Are you
and
looking for new members?
It's always Wednesday nights. It's such a fun time. Everyone there is so supportive and so cool.
I love that.
Yeah, it's just a really great league. Everyone helps you learn the different skill shots and things like that.
Wow.
And then I've gone to a few competitions. So
That's-
that's been fun.
That's
competition.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Right?
How are you doing them?
Not great. But it's one of those things where people get so into it, and it's such a niche thing that you'd never think about. But
Yeah.
it's people are just so into it, and so it's so cool seeing people who are really passionate about it and really knowledgeable about it, really sharing their expertise and their tips and tricks and things like
Yeah.
that. So I would highly recommend anyone who's interested checking it out.
I love
It's a
that.
great time.
And I appreciate you sharing. And anybody
Yeah.
who's listening, if you're looking for something new and cool to do on, we said Wednesday nights.
Wednesday nights, Excelsior Pub, Women's Pinball League, Albany Bells and Chimes.
There you go.
Shout them out.
I mean that we have to have a shameless plug in here somewhere.
Exactly.
Of course. Well, I'm really, really excited to get into your story, and first, just kind of share with us what led you to Power. Kind of what were you looking for? Was there frustrations that you had been experiencing or feeling? Kind of tell us about that.
Yeah, so definitely a couple things kind of led me here. So I think first of all was that my body just wasn't feeling good. I think so. I'm 27 now. Started doing this when I was 26. And I think I'd kind of like the past like year or two beforehand, I think my body just started not feeling good and being in lots of pain all the time. And largely, especially with the progress I've made here at Power, I think a lot of it was definitely due to the fact that I wasn't active and I knew I needed to be more active. And I was always, growing up, I was always like super skinny and fine. So I was always like, oh, I'm skinny. Like I don't need to, work out or be athletic. And I had kind of was one of those people who made like not working out or being unathletic one of their personality traits, which isn't great to do. Wouldn't recommend.
Like 0 out of 10.
0 out of 10 would not recommend. So it kind of got to the point where I started realizing that I needed to be more active just to be healthier and feel better. I had kind of been doing a little bit of like research, and just things I had seen had been kind of leading me to realize, gaining more muscle and like being more fit and active, can help a lot with pain and things like that. Additionally, over the summer in downtown Albany, they had like free yoga going on.
Yes.
And I had started doing that, and that was amazing. And
I love
I was
that.
like, okay, so I kept doing that, but I wanted to kind of add something into it. So I tried going to the gym in my apartment building. And I would look at the machines and I'd be like, what is this? I have no idea what is going on. I tried to research exercises, did not work. So I was like, okay, I don't even know how to work out. So I was like, maybe I should look into some sort of like personal training or whatever. And then that was around the time you guys were moving into Slip 12.
Yes.
So I was like, okay, it probably wouldn't hurt just to reach out, and that's part of what led me here. The other thing was, at the time, my mental health wasn't in a super great place. So I was kind of throwing a lot of things against the wall and trying a lot of different things to see like what would help make it better. And I will definitely say that this has been one of the most successful things in helping improve my mental health. So it's been just really awesome.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Like the fact that you recognized at a young age, I mean, you're still very young.
Yeah.
You got a lot of life ahead of you. And the fact that you're like taking this seriously, like not only my mental health, but also my physical health and my longevity. So kudos to you for recognizing that on your own. I mean, a lot of people don't.
You're someone who definitely takes action, and I love that about you.
Yes.
When we trained together, you were always so enthusiastic, ready to learn, like eager for it, and you took that action. You're like, okay, this isn't working. What can I do to make things better or make this work?
Yeah.
And I love your comfort stepping outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Because you're so willing to do that. And
Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
And I will say it definitely like took a long time to be able to do that. And I feel especially in the past like year and a half, that has been a process of like stepping more and more outside of my comfort zone to do things. So like there are things I'll do now that a year ago I wouldn't have even thought of, like being on this podcast.
I know.
Yes. So, and I think, one of the things that definitely has really helped, in the working out is like, it's built a lot of like confidence and also the ability, like I can do hard things. I can lift that really scary weight.
It's not so scary anymore.
It's not so scary anymore.
Yeah.
Occasionally it gets a little scary.
Of course.
But that's not a bad thing.
Right.
So it's definitely built a lot of confidence and a lot of resilience too. And it's just a great community as well. Like that's been huge as well. Like everyone's so supportive and amazing. I feel like that has been so crucial in, me just sticking to this. Right, because I feel like if I didn't have such a connection to this community and like shout out to the 430 class, love them so much. I probably wouldn't have stuck to it as long as I have and as consistently as I have.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, I had to look up when you officially started. It's been over a year.
Yeah.
It was the end of September 2022, the first month that we were here. And correct me if I'm wrong, you were one of Jen's first clients.
She was.
Yeah.
I had really just started with personal training.
Yeah.
One of my first clients to work with.
And to see how much you've grown, I mean, and me just in seeing you in classes and hearing from Jen, just how much you've grown, stepped outside of your comfort zone, all the things that you've been saying, like your confidence has skyrocketed. Have you felt that with the confidence that you've gained at Power, that's led to, growth in other areas?
Oh, absolutely.
Tell me about that.
It's definitely made me much more confident in trying new things and kind of
Pinball league?
Pinball league, exactly. I've also joined a kickball league.
Loved kickball so much.
Oh my God. It's been great, especially as someone who like growing up was like, I'm not athletic. I had friends who had like been trying to like get me to join kickball. And they're like, you should join. And I'm like, no. And then like, especially with the confidence gained here, it's like, I can try this, we can do this. But definitely, I feel like at work, I'm more confident in speaking with people. And kind of being, I don't know how to describe it. Just like, I feel like my presence is different. I also honestly feel like I walk differently, and it's just been like crazy. Like I feel completely different.
I love that.
Thank
That's
you.
amazing. And to realize that, you're like, hey, I stand taller. I'm proud to be the person that I've become. Like, what a transformation from the inside out.
It really is. And I feel like I think especially with mental health, like it can be really hard to find a place to start. So like starting like doing something like physical, I think is huge, because it's something like, okay, I can do this exercise, and then it's kind of an accessible way to start working on mental health.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
On keeping on that same subject topic of mental health, how are you feeling in whatever your comfort level is? How are you feeling before, and how has that changed throughout the past year plus?
Ooh, so I guess specifically with mental health, starting, I guess my mental health journey probably really started a couple months before that. Mm-hmm. So it took me a lot for me to build up to get the confidence to come into Power, right? So it was really exhausting. Is probably the best way to describe things.
Mm-hmm.
It was exhausting. It was, in many ways, kind of lonely.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry,
It's okay.
Give me a second. No, it's just, I think it's also one of those things too where you don't realize how bad you're feeling until you start getting out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then like as you start building up the confidence, and as you start kind of doing things and stepping outside of your comfort zone, like you realize, oh, things were really bad. Like I remember there would be times I would be so paralyzed with fear about doing things, I would like skip out on things, and just, kind of that instant relief of, oh, I canceled that plan, I don't have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But then like an hour after, the event would have started, I would have been like, oh, I'm so sad. I'm here sitting in my apartment alone,
Mm-hmm.
And so, I feel like between very like actively like, saying yes to things and doing things, and then also, coming to Power and just being like, okay, no matter how scared I am, I'm going to stick to it. I'm going to go in, I'm going to do the training, and we're going to see how it goes. Because the worst that can happen is I have a terrible time and I never come back, right?
That hasn't happened yet.
It hasn't, which has been amazing. So definitely it was just really exhausting and lonely, and before, starting this journey.
How does it feel to now be excited to say yes to things?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Like I don't get sick before events anymore, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been really cool. It's really interesting, like thinking back, like I remember, so over the summer, my family and I did 4th of July at the Valley Cats game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we did it this past year, and we did it the year before. And I remember sitting there this past year thinking like, and I was like getting like really into the game and like yelling, and like engaging and things like that. And I remember thinking back to the year before and just being like, wow, last year I was so afraid to just take up space. And this year I'm here like actively like engaging and yelling and not worrying about like doing the wrong thing or something like that. And so I think a lot of confidence has been built up over this past year where it's like, I can exist. I can be here.
Absolutely.
Take up that space.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're so happy that you're here.
Thank
Seriously.
you. I'm happy to be here too.
Yeah.
This has been such an amazing journey, and you guys, have always been like so supportive and amazing, and yeah, I really appreciate it.
It's all because you took that first step. It really is.
Thank you.
Yes. What about, and I know you said growing up, you didn't actively pursue, a lot of activities, physical activities, things like that. What about your experience? I guess, what were your expectations, if there were any, going in? And what was maybe what was true or continued to be true, and what was wildly different?
Like maybe what surprised you.
Yeah.
What's different about your expectations?
So I'll be really honest. I think coming in, I was kind of like, oh, I'll do the personal training, I'll learn how to work out, and then I'll go work out on my own. I don't think I ever told you that, but that was kind of, that was the vibe I got going in. But, I think especially after, our first few meetings together, even after I think the first meeting, you guys were like so knowledgeable. And it's like, I remember our first screening where I mentioned something about like, oh, having knee pain. And you're like, oh, well, it might be because of this reason, like something like I had never thought of. And I'm like, like something about like mobility somewhere else. And I'm like, whoa, really? And it's just like, wow, I have so much to learn. So it was like, it was first of all very humbling just for me to be like, oh, there's so much I don't know. And then second of all, I didn't expect to be as into the class experience as I was. So I did the class, and I just like, I love it. I love it so much. I love the energy. I love the community. I love working out with other people. So I think the biggest thing that kind of surprised me was how much I loved this community aspect. And even walking in here the first time, I was like, I wasn't expecting like everyone to be so much like a community and like so like happy and excited to be here, that I was like, wow, everyone's like really happy. Like I maybe was expecting like something like a normal gym where people just go in and work out and leave. Yeah. And like it wasn't like that at all. So yeah, I love it.
How did that make you feel after you realized, wow, between the coaches and the other, the other clients, like people like are genuinely happy, like you're saying.
Yeah.
They don't have this like, oh, I have to go in, shut everything out in the world and just do my thing. Like we're in it together. Like, how did that make you feel?
I think I was just like really impressed. Like, wow, this isn't what I was expecting at all. Yeah. Like I was shocked. Like clearly I had no idea what I was getting into coming in. And it just felt like a community, and like, which was also something at the time I was kind of lacking. So I was like, wow, this is really cool, which is, I think, again, part of the reason why I think I've been here for so long and like have kept it. Like I feel like out of any other like habit I've had that like, I've tried to keep and has like fallen off, like I feel like this one has stayed so strong largely because it's like there is a community, there is a class I go to. It's like, even if I might not like talk with these people a lot, it's like we're all here, we're all working together like towards the same thing, and we're all supporting each other.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't want to cut you off if you have a question.
No.
I have so many. I'm
okay.
I'm so happy with everything that you're sharing, and like,
good.
Thank you for being so open about a lot of this. It's not easy to say, hey, I was in a place that was not so great, and now look at me, I'm on top of the mountain.
Yeah.
Like that's.
Right. I think a lot of people can relate to that and
absolutely
find inspiration from that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Definitely
Yeah.
appreciate you sharing that.
Do you remember, so in your sessions with Jen when you very first started, do you remember a point where you're like, this is going to work for me? This, like, the light bulb, that, the light switch moment where you're like, wow, this is what I needed?
So I wouldn't say inside the sessions themselves,
Yep.
but I would say outside the sessions. I remember like being at work and like I pushed open a door and like suddenly like I felt like muscles engaging that I had never felt before. And I'm like, do these I didn't know I had these. Like logically I knew I had them, but like
I remember when you told me that too.
Yeah.
It was so exciting.
and then the other thing would be at the time I was part of an axe throwing league.
That's right. I remember that.
I love learning all this stuff. This is so cool.
And I've been a part of a few at a few different places for probably like 3 years prior to that. Mm-hmm. And I had really like plateaued at where I was. And then suddenly like a couple weeks after starting training, suddenly like I was doing significantly better and just like consistently hitting the board. And I'm like, whoa. And it's like I could feel like my back like muscles engaging like so much more, and all of a sudden I had like so much more control over my throwing. So I think it was those two things that really like kind of showed me like, wow, this is really doing something.
Did you expect that?
No, not at all.
I love that too because it's noticing the differences outside of the facility you're training in.
Yeah.
And how that training translates to just performing better in life and different things and feeling different and feeling better.
Yeah. It's been absolutely amazing. And the other thing I will say too, in sessions, I think one of the things that in the sessions that really like showed me like, wow, this is really a community that's really going to help me, moving forward was I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but there was one day where something had happened outside of the session and I was kind of upset about it. And I remember like you looked at me and you're like, are you okay? And like, cause I was getting like really frustrated with an exercise cause the rows weren't working well. And I was and I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. She's like, and you're like, are you sure? And I'm like, no. And I start sobbing. And I remember you giving me a hug and you're like, it's okay. You're safe. It's fine. And I'm like, okay. And I feel like that too, like just feeling that support, like also made me feel like, wow, this is a place where people care and they're really here to help me. And that definitely made all the difference.
Yeah. My God. Instant chills, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you had that feeling going somewhere before and feeling that support from somebody who was basically a stranger a few weeks before?
No, in all honesty.
Yeah.
I can't think of any other time I've had that sort of support, like just from really anywhere, like outside of like my family and stuff. So it's, especially as someone who like, it's hard for me to like open up to people. Like, so that happening was just like, it was, feeling that support was strange in a really good way.
Yeah. It's that wow, I'm heard.
Yeah.
I'm seen. Like, and
Right.
I can very confidently say that Jen is so good at recognizing that in her clients, both on the floor and in individual sessions, that, it's those moments that we realize that the exercise or the workout itself, that's the last thing. Like, no, that's a bonus almost.
Yeah.
It's like you're saying, that support, the community, your coaches, like everything that comes that we don't expect first. We come in expecting workouts.
Yeah.
You can get a great workout anywhere you go. There's amazing places all over the capital region. And it's that connection with your coach that, that everything that you're saying, I'm just like, wow, you guys had a connection instantly.
Yes.
And I remember how excited Jen was when she's like, Sam is ready. She's ready to move forward and move up that mountain. Yeah. Do you remember that? Do you remember your final session? I remember Jen was like, can you get a picture of us? She was like so excited.
Yes. No. That final session was amazing.
Yeah.
It was so great.
Yeah. Got to do those pull-ups too.
Yes. And I remember you like taking a video and I'm looking at the video and I'm like, are those muscles in my back? What are those?
Those are back muscles. Like,
Wow. I have those. It
Yeah.
was so impressive that I don't know, just the whole like training experience. And then that last session was just like,
You're strong. Strong.
thank
More
you.
ways than one.
Thank you.
Yeah. So now what is it like now, since you're like, okay, I did probably the hardest thing imaginable at that point in your life, and
Yeah.
seeking help in an area that you had, like you said, no knowledge in,
Yeah.
and knowing that you gain that confidence, you confidently say, this worked for me.
Yeah.
And now that first hurdle has been jumped, kind of what has happened since? Like, tell us about like just how life is different for you. I know we touched on it in the beginning.
I will honestly say life is easier. You know, I'm being in pain so much less now. It's like, it was exhausting before. Like, it's exhausting being in pain. So like once like you physically like start moving and start doing something about that pain, and suddenly you are in pain like less and less and less, it's just, it takes away that draining, consistent draining you have in your day, right? So I have so much more energy, both because of the lack of pain, and I think just in general, I just have way more energy, which has been really cool.
You walk in at 4:15, and you are ready to go.
Yeah.
Like, you had just woken up for the day and you've already completed a full day.
Yeah.
And I love that about you, because every time you walk in, there's a big smile on your face. You're happy to be here, and that resonates with other people, whether you realize it or not.
Oh, truly, it radiates.
Yeah.
For sure.
Good.
That positivity is contagious.
Yeah, it's I think because too, it's just so like knowing I'm coming into like this positive place, and like no matter what's happened like at work the rest of the day beforehand, it's like that's over, and now like I get to transition into, you know, my workout, that I can really focus on this class. All I have to do is focus on this class. Like, I know I leave my phone in my locker. I'm like, we are in this class, we are here, we're in this moment. And then like coming home after it too, it's just like, you know, I can be tired after a day of work, or I can be tired after a workout, and it's a different type of tired. Like, there's still almost like an energy to it, whereas I feel like when you just like come home from work, it's like, ugh, you're just kind of like,
Yeah.
tired.
That drained energy versus
Yes.
that I just worked
Did
my
something.
ass
Yeah.
off energy. Yeah.
Accomplished. Like,
Exactly.
Yes. Yes.
yeah.
Talk to me a little bit more about the pain that you were experiencing, and kind of what was it, you know, more specifically, and how has that improved, like in the actual literal physical sense, and has it opened up doors to be able to do things that you're like, I couldn't do that before because I was in pain.
Oh, yeah. So I know lots of back pain was going on. And then a couple months before I came to Power, all of a sudden my knees started being in a lot of pain. And it's like, I remember there was a period of like a couple days where it was just like, it was such excruciating pain that like I literally had like an ice pack on my knee at work, because I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with this. I didn't do anything to it. Like, but it just hurts. So there was that. There was a lot of back pain. Lots of like shoulder pain and tension and stuff. Sorry, what was the second part of the question?
You're totally fine. So you had back, shoulder, knee, all, you know, you're fighting that for
Yeah.
a considerable amount of time.
Yeah.
How have you noticed that's like, are there specific movements, maybe, for example, specific movements that you used to either avoid, or maybe not even movements, things, activities that you used to avoid that you're now back to doing? Things that you never thought you would be able to do that you're now doing? Axe throwing?
Yeah.
Hello? Like, yeah, kickball, like things like that. Did you ever picture that a year, you know, take yourself back a year to when you started? Did you ever think that you'd be in a kickball league?
No. As
Yeah.
hard as my friends were trying to get me to join, I was like, no, we're not doing that. I'm not athletic. I don't do that. I'm actually not terrible at kickball. I will say that.
I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not great at catching the ball, but you know what? We do our best.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not a complete liability. But no, a year ago, I would not have thought I'd be doing kickball.
Yeah.
And yeah, so my pain, I would say it's less, there wasn't necessarily anything specifically it would stop me from doing. However, I think just kind of in general, I was like more hesitant to just do things because it's like I'm in pain or, oh, I'm tired because I'm in pain, so I don't want to go out and do something.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah.
So, and definitely, and actually, yeah, thinking about it, there were definitely times where I was like, I'd want to do yoga, but like, oh, my knee hurts. What if I do something, I'll hurt it more? I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like there was also kind of like a fear that came along with the pain and like doing any sort of movement that I'm like, what if this makes it worse? So that's kind of the biggest thing I found. And obviously now that I'm in much less pain, that's not happening nearly as often.
That was gonna be a question that I was gonna ask, and you're in my brain.
Perfect.
It sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, you were at that point where you're like, I'm just always gonna be in pain.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to do about it, so I'm just gonna, be exhausted about it all the time.
Well, it's like you have everyone I work with who's like in my 30s, and they're like, "Oh yeah, don't get old." Like,
And you're like, "I wish
you're
I-
always in pain," and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like 26, 27. I shouldn't be in this much pain. We're at the point where it only gets worse from here unless you're proactive about it. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to lose anything by like trying this out, so we might as well do it. And clearly it's helped out a lot. So
Yeah.
definitely, I feel confident, going into like, I mean, obviously I have a little bit of time before my 30s, but going into my 30s, and, hopefully being in significantly less pain than, maybe some of my friends or colleagues who are like, oh yeah, being 30 is terrible. I'm like,
Being 30 is fabulous.
I would say so.
I feel like it should be fabulous.
The 30s are great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can confirm.
Can confirm.
Perfect.
10 out of
Friends
10.
who are in their 30s may be inspired by you as you
See?
approach your 30s to see, because 30s is not old.
Yeah,
Right? A lot
I
of people
know.
think it is because they're in
I
pain.
know. I'm like, see, positive influences
Yeah.
here. I love that. That's why we're here.
Yeah, well, and I mean, you yourself are a positive influence. And whether you realize it or not, is you took action, and I'm sure that if you asked your colleagues who are like, oh my gosh, I've been in pain for how long? Like, what about you? And you're like, you can share your story with them. I encourage
Yeah.
you to share your story because it's a very powerful one.
Yeah.
In taking action, like Jen said,
Yeah.
getting comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And doing the things that are not easy, and just looking back and seeing how far you've come and what you've overcome.
yeah.
People can really, I think people really take that to heart and kind of look internally on themselves. So, thank you for sharing
Oh, well. Thank you.
everything. Yeah. And, as many people as you come in contact with, same thing with us. Like, we see people day in and day out, and until we understand at a deeper level, like Jen did with you, we only know what we know, and we don't know what we don't know.
Right.
So, and that's speaks true for you too. Is like, I didn't know anything about what to do,
Yeah.
so I sought out those who did.
Yeah.
And have you found yourself talking with people about your experience since you started?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. How's that gone
Like-
for you?
It's been really good. I mean, I feel like I'm also at a really good point where like I have a great like group of friends, and I have like great like people who like I can reach out to and talk to. And so I think they're, really, I think they're interested and like they care about, me and, what I'm going through.
As they should be.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think, hopefully, if there's anything that I say that can help them, hopefully it does. And yeah.
What advice would you offer to them if whether they asked or not, like to the world based on your experience.
Just do the thing.
Yes.
Like you have to do it. Like that's the only way like you get comfortable doing anything is just by doing it.
We talk a lot about the cost of action and the cost of inaction.
Yes. Yeah.
It's so true. It's so true. It's definitely, for the longest time, I did a lot of inaction because I was really afraid of what action would look like. And, oh my God, am I going to do something wrong? Or, oh, what if I get put in an uncomfortable situation? Or da 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 da. And it's like, it's at the end of the day, like, you are going to do so much more harm to yourself by not doing anything than if you, put yourself out there and risk your comfort a little bit in order. Like, even if it does go wrong, like, it's probably not going to go that wrong. So,
Definitely.
Well said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, just do it.
I
Just
love
do the
it.
thing.
Love it. Nike, you got your next spokesperson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, something that you said that I really loved was like, it's not going to be as bad as you think. What's the worst that can happen? We fail forward. We learn from our, from the perceived failure. It's only a failure if we think it is.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've heard, I know we've heard, Coach Ra, failure is feedback.
Yeah.
It tells us what we know about ourselves and what we learned about ourselves and what we can change. So, yeah, I love it. Anything you want to add?
No, I don't think so.
I mean, the two of you, and I would walk in on sessions with you two, and just the bond that you guys both had with each other so quickly. Oh my gosh.
God.
I was like, I'm going to join your sessions.
It was the highlight of my week. It was amazing. It's like I was always looking forward to it.
I love that. I was always looking forward to meeting with you too, just because you were always so eager to learn and like to do the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, it's contagious. So it makes, I love that as a coach to see that in my clients, that they want it because we talk about, sometimes we want it for our client more than they want it for themselves. And you want it for yourself. Yeah. It's just like, it's invigorating.
Yeah.
For sure.
It makes what you do that much more rewarding and that much easier.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. I love it. Sam, thank you so much for taking the time to share your story. And if you see Sam at 4:30 p.m. class is usually when she jams with us.
Woo.
Please say hi. I mean, you're always, like I said, she's always has a smile on her face, always ready and eager to meet new people, and just sharing your story. And now people know more about you. And I'm sure you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, everybody in 4:30 knows who I am now. It's gonna be amazing. And anybody who's listening, if you found value from this, if you have questions for Sam, shoot us a message, an email, whether it's, message on Instagram, an email to our power email. We will definitely get those questions to Sam because you're going to impact more people than you realize. You really will.
you.
Yeah. So thank you so much again, Jen.
Thank you for having me on.
Of course.
Was amazing.
It goes back to your radio days, and
It
look
does.
for her at
Flashback.
Yes, Excelsior Pub on Wednesdays with the Pinball League and axe throwing and kickball and you're all over Albany. All right, we got to keep up with you now.
Yes.
I love it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody who's listening, until next time, power to the people.